When you stand up for the Lord, my brother, sister, you will not be popular in this world. The world is not any different from what it was 2,000 years ago. If they crucified Christ because they didn't want him, if he came to the earth today, they'd kill him again. Even though a lot of people talk about admiring him and all, why was Jesus crucified? It's not because he washed people's feet and opened blind eyes. Because he stood against sin. And he exposed corruption and tradition in religion, in the religious system. Because he stood against people making money in the name of God in the temple. And he chased them out, took a whip and chased them out. And you stand today against the television preachers who make money from poor people in the church. And you won't be popular either. No. You stand against the corrupt gospel, which is not leading people to be free from sin, but just telling people how they can be healthy and wealthy. That's not what Jesus came for. You won't be popular even among Christians. You preach the way of the cross, the way that Jesus walked. He said, if anyone wants to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross every day and follow me. That means let him die to himself every day and follow me. That's not a popular message. Let me turn to John's Gospel, chapter 6. John chapter 6 is one of the most amazing chapters in the Bible. If you want to know how to reduce a large congregation to a small one, John chapter 6. That's the one. In a good way. John chapter 6 verse 2. A great multitude was following Christ. That's how it began. A huge crowd of people following in Jesus' footsteps. And that's how John's Gospel, chapter 6, verse 2 begins. They saw the signs that he was performing. He was extremely popular. In fact, he was so popular, it says here, that they wanted to make him a king. In verse 15. Jesus perceived that they were going to make him a king. He was so popular. A very popular preacher. Well, he didn't want to be a king. It says he withdrew and went alone. And then, by the time you come to the end of that chapter, you read, it says in verse 66, it's the same chapter, John 6:66, many of his disciples withdrew, and they were not walking with him anymore. And verse 67, there were 12 left. That's what I said. The John chapter 6 is a great chapter that reduced this huge multitude to 12. Why would Jesus preach in a way that reduced the numbers? Because he said the way to life is narrow, and few there be that find it. Paul said to Timothy, in the last days, people who have itching ears, they like to have preachers who will just comfort them, tell them stories, and not preach God's word in all its power. Entertain them and use methods of psychology to comfort them. And there'll be crowds. But if you preach the cross, that's what Jesus preached here. John 6:53, he says, you've got to eat my flesh and drink my blood if you want to have life in yourself. John 6 and verse 53. That's the message they got offended with. You got to eat my flesh and drink my blood if you want to have life in yourself. It was not physical flesh and blood. He was talking about choosing the way of the cross. Flesh and blood there speak about the death of the cross. If you choose this way of death, you'll have life in yourself. That's the message that reduced this huge crowd to 12. We will discover in the final day that the way to life was really narrow.